You're listening to Three Kitchens Podcast, hosted by home cooks Erin Walker and Heather Dyer.
Are you tired of cooking the same old things? So are we. Let's all get inspired, cook better, and eat great food.
Hello, and welcome to today's episode of Three Kitchens Podcast. My name is Erin Walker, and my wonderful co-host Heather Dyer is here with me.
Hello, I got jazz hands.
With the jazz hands. She's jazzy today. All right.
Not really, but I'll try.
Really. Fake it till you make it, honey. That's what we do around here.
Mm-hmm. Faking it every step of the way.
Exactly. So the two of us are just hanging out today and talking about some recipes we're going to make. And I received a cookbook at Christmas last year. Not this most recent Christmas. No, an entire year ago. Because this is how on top of things I am.
That's okay.
It's called Prairie, and it's seasonal farm fresh recipes celebrating the Canadian prairies.
It got some great reviews. I kept seeing it pop up in our social media. People were loving this book.
Lots of people really liked this. So I'm finally going to dig it out and start cooking from it, because for whatever reason this last year, that hasn't happened.
That's okay.
I don't know. So
it's just there waiting for you.
Yeah. And I am going to make a savory dish, beef stroganoff, because I feel like you can't get better than that.
You can't go wrong, for sure.
No, and that seems like a good prairie meal, something that, you'd grow up eating.
I did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It was one of the things my mom liked to make.
Yeah, and it's got egg noodles in it. And you have an egg noodle recipe?
I do.
So I might really go prairie with this.
Ooh.
It's a creamy sauce with mushrooms and beef served on top of egg noodles. And it's got thyme for flavoring and a bit of Dijon mustard and really simple flavors. And it uses leftover meat. So if you're going to make a roast or you're going to braise a big piece of meat, you have that ready to go so that when you go to cook and prepare this, It looks like it's, pretty quick. So for a weeknight meal where you want something hearty, it uses leftovers. It's checking all those boxes, stretching that meat a little bit further. So if you're going to buy a roast at the store because it's on sale, buy the big one. Cook it all up, have it there for you.
Yeah. And you don't have to make egg noodles if you don't want.
You don't have to.
We are here to tell you it's actually very easy.
Yeah, this is the thing, is you do this more often than I do this.
I've done it a few times.
Right.
I could count on one hand.
Okay, so I've done it 0 times, so you win.
Okay. All right. It was not a competition, but okay.
I don't think I've ever made just an egg noodle before.
It's so simple. The recipe that I found and that I like is from the Bisou et Brioche cookbook by Laura Bradbury and Rebecca Wellman. I've made lots of things out of that book, and I know I've talked about it on the podcast before. And it's just a great, simple egg noodle recipe. You'll be amazed at how easy it is.
Okay.
And that pasta bake that you've got just makes, if I had to roll it with a rolling pin, I might not be so keen to make pasta.
Have you seen that there is a Netflix Chef's Table noodles
I don't think
edition series? We just started looking at it and kind of grazing on it, and watching these people roll out pasta using those big long poles that they have. I think that's what you need. If you're gonna do it, you need, and this pole is like an extension of their body, and it was handcrafted by some guy who found the wood who spoke just to this person. It's,
wow,
a little bit intense. So
I want to know what the wood would say if it spoke to me. I am your rolling pin.
Use me to make yummy pasta.
Why do we assume it's like a male voice? Maybe it's a, hey.
And why are we putting on the male voice?
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
it's like our biggest pet peeve in audiobooks, and here
It's
we
true.
are.
Yep.
We are guilty. Okay. So I'm not going to roll out my pasta by myself. Not happening. But I would like to try this egg noodle recipe,
Mhm.
watching people make pasta. I don't know. My husband and I were up late at night and we looked at each other and he's like, "Can we just go make like a whole bunch of ravioli right now?" And I was like, "Yes, please." Because it's so inspiring to
Oh,
watch
for
it.
sure.
And you're like, I want to get my hands in that dough and I want to mush it and I want to bake it and I want to like all the ASMR of it, like
Yes. That's one thing to make a noodle. It's another to stuff it with something like a ravioli.
Mm,
Like, I feel like is there
yeah.
another tool you need to make that happen? Like
I
to
have a
put the
ravioli maker.
layers together and crimp it? Like, that feels to me like a bigger job. Although
Mhm.
you did make us
I did.
ravioli on the podcast once. What did you put in
Yeah,
them?
it had butter, it had pumpkin. Was it pumpkin ravioli
I
or was
think
it
it might have
butternut
been
squash?
pumpkin and sage or something.
Something. Yeah,
Oh my God, it was so yummy.
possibly. Hmm. I have a
Mm.
little tray that you roll out a sheet of the pasta dough, you set it down, you put your filling in, and then you put another sheet on top, and it makes it foolproof
Yes.
for sure.
That's the trick. And the other great, speaking of the pasta bike, which is
Mm.
just a manual roller
Hmm.
that presses, you set the tension and it presses the dough through, you
Yeah.
get consistency with it.
Yes.
This is what I'm afraid of with rolling out the dough is that this side would be a little thicker and this side would be thinner and then that, like I don't
Yeah.
care what it look I when I cut noodles, I just use a pizza cutter and like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't care about the size and shape, but the
Yeah.
thickness I think should be consistent.
Because that affects how long you cook it. And then you get if it's too thick in one place and too thin in another, you'll get it to be doughy somewhere or chewy somewhere. Or, yeah,
Yeah.
consistency is key. And neither of us have the experience to make that happen. So,
Or the proper rolling pin that speaks the right language
no,
in
I
the right
also haven't
place.
found, you know, Rodney the rolling pin, who is going to be
Oh,
my life partner in the kitchen. I don't know. I like giving random
oh,
objects
love it.
personified
Nice.
voices in my life. Maybe that's why my kids are always telling me to shut up. Oh, would you like to come and join my muffins? Shut up. I feel like that happens a lot. All right. Well, I spend too much time alone by myself at home. So I'm going to make some stroganoff with these delicious noodles. And I know I haven't chosen what cut of meat yet, but I've got some great cuts of meat from
Mm.
Charlotte at Chatsworth Farm, still hanging out in my freezer.
Nice. That's what I
So
was going to ask you. What cut and how are you going to cook it the day before when you then use it for leftovers?
TBD.
Okay.
I'm going to leave you hanging. I won't tell you. You will have to identify the cut.
Oh, no. You cannot do that.
Ah,
I
no,
will
that's
have
mean.
no idea. No
Yeah,
idea.
maybe a pot roast or something. Then use the leftovers. Keep them for this recipe. We'll see.
We also have a recipe on our website, everyone, Erin's Perfect Pot Roast. I don't know
That's
if it's
right.
called Erin's, but it is Erin's recipe
Hmm.
for a perfect pot roast. So if you're now going, I don't know how to cook a pot roast, we got you. Hey listener, have you visited our website? You'll find our entire catalog of episodes. Can you believe there are more than 170 of them, including the Speakeasy Cocktail series and almost all of our recipes?
It's easy to find. Just type in www.threekitchenspodcast.com or check the show notes for a link. Now, let's get back to the show. Shall we talk about some stroganoff?
We definitely should.
And
Since we've started it, we may as well finish it.
we might as well keep going with it.
Mhm.
I've been keeping a secret from you, Heather.
Oh. What is it?
I fed you some mystery meat.
Oh,
Did you guess?
no. But I did kind of wonder,
Okay.
honestly. I was like, what am I eating exactly? I still have some. I didn't eat the whole thing you gave me, so I can go back again now with my new knowledge. So
Well, we'll see if you
lay
want
it
to go
on me.
back.
Oh no. Oh, really?
So,
Okay.
once upon a time, when I ordered my half cow from Chatsworth Farm,
Mm-hmm.
I ordered the cow tongue.
Mm-hmm. Brave soul that you are, because it is the most disgusting looking thing.
It's a little bit interesting to cook with,
Okay.
but this Prairie cookbook had a recipe for braised beef tongue, and then on page 2, it had beef tongue stroganoff.
Oh, but you didn't tell me that in the first half.
So I
You're
kind
being
of
sneaky.
neglected to. I wasn't lying. I just omited some of the information, as my
I was going to
very
say, you sound like your
astute
child.
14-year-old would say. It wasn't a lie.
No, it wasn't. I mean, he's not wrong.
And then we got talking about the noodles that you recommended I easily whip up.
Did I say easily? I might have. I don't.
I'm pretty sure you did. Oh, they're so easy to make. Make these noodles, Erin.
Listener, I must tell you, I saw Erin after school in the parking lot a couple days ago.
That's the other place we haunt. Online and parking lots.
The parking lot. It was actually at the skating rink after school. And she was angry with me for having suggested that the egg noodle recipe I shared with her was simple enough to make.
Simple.
Yeah. And it was not going well. That's
It
not my
was-
fault because I have had success with that recipe. Although I have to say your noodles look quite different than what mine looked like.
I
Maybe you had
know.
different standards that you were trying to reach.
I don't know. I don't know what I was doing.
I feel like I had less expectations of those noodles because yours were like perfect. They look like store-bought, perfect little store-bought
I
noodles.
left them out and dried them and everything for you. I hope it was enough because then I looked at the tray of noodles and I was like, is this enough noodles now for this? I don't know.
Oh, I still made half of it. I made
Oh,
half,
okay.
ate half the
Okay.
meat sauce, and then I kept the other half.
So now that I've got this off my chest, my lies, I've come clean. Just like,
Forgive me, I have sinned.
forgive
I
me,
have told
Heather,
lies of omission.
for I have lied by omission. Exactly.
All right, you were forgiven.
So let's get into what the heck I did. Let's start with these noodles because I feel like we just have to get them out of the way to get that taste out of my mouth.
Taste of the noodles?
The
Surely
bitterness,
not.
the bitterness of how simple these noodles were.
Good Lord, I'm hearing it today.
My kids rag on me all the time. I have to turn around and direct it to someone else.
No, but what's
You get to be my
interesting,
punching bag.
yeah, and it never happens that something works out for me and not for you. It's usually the other
Well,
way
isn't
around.
that the fun part? Is
Yeah.
Here I am, like, "Rawr, rawr, rawr." And Heather's just like, la, 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 la.
Like, I'm enjoying this actually
Yeah.
because not that I wanted you to have trouble with the noodles. But it's interesting that you did when
That I suffered, yes.
I've not suffered with that recipe. So, what happened?
All right. So, basic recipe here. We've got 3 ingredients:
Mm-hmm.
all-purpose flour, eggs, and salt. The eggs you divide into 2 whole eggs and 4 egg yolks. And so in my stand mixer, I popped in my 2 cups of flour. I made a little well in the middle of it. I added my eggs into that little well. I sprinkled the salt on top of my eggs. And then I started my mixer on the dough hook setting. Do you also use the dough hook
Yes.
for this? Okay.
Yes. And just may I also say
Okay.
that I have done this on the countertop where you do the pile of your dry ingredients and you make the well and you put the egg in the middle and you use a fork and
Well,
stir it and get it in there.
congratulations.
I have done that, but this is what I didn't recommend to you because
Yeah.
we all have had those things. Either the egg escapes and you make a giant mess, Or you're forever cleaning that countertop. I don't know about your countertops, but mine, anytime I have too much flour on it, I am cleaning that for days. It leaves
I
a
hear you.
film that I cannot get off, and I
Hmm.
hate it.
Hmm.
So I just want you to know that I have tried it that way. Was
Not
not
worth it.
better. No.
So I, trusted this recipe and
Jesus, this is like, wow.
so I turn on my mixer. I walk away because I'm like, okay, I'll start cleaning up all my ingredients here. I got, all these eggshells hanging around and I hear my mixer going and I'm like, it doesn't sound like it's a dough yet. So I look in my mixer and there's nothing close to a dough. I have this scattering of dry pieces of eggy flouriness that is not coming together. And I'm like, well,
Mm,
maybe I need to like take it out and give it some love. Nope, that didn't
yeah.
do it.
Hmm.
I go back because I went and wrote out, you know, the recipe you gave me from my phone. So I don't have to be opening my phone while I'm also trying to take a video of this. So I go back and I open the recipe and I'm like, so what should I do? And the instructions are if it's too dry, add more flour or add more water. If it's too wet, add more flour. And I'm like, so how do I know when it's too dry or too wet? So I'm like, well, obviously I know it's too dry at this point. I start adding water to it. Her recommendation is like add water with a spray bottle. And I'm
Oh,
looking at this dough and I'm like, my wrist will fall off before I finish spraying enough water into there. So I'm just gonna go get my. So I start going like half ounce at a time because I've got my little shot glass that's got the measurements on it. So, half an ounce of water, mixy, 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 half an ounce of water, mixy, mixy, mix. At what point do I start adding another egg yolk? Or a whole egg, or I just kept adding water to this stuff and it was hard. It took forever before it started forming a dough. I would finally, I would add water in, the whole bowl would become this greasy, wet
mm-hmm.
flour
I
kind
can
of
picture it.
thing where the
Hmm.
dough is then just like sliding around it like it's.
Yeah.
And then finally the water goes and incorporates and the dough still seems dry. So I go again and I go again. I'm really happy I didn't burn out my KitchenAid because she was starting to smell a little bit. She got pretty
Uh-oh.
hot.
Oh dear.
But eventually, this dough did come together. Why?
I don't
Why
know.
are pasta doughs like this for me? Because
Mm.
back when I made a spinach pasta, again, the dough was too dry. I felt like WTF is going on here. And I'm going to put a call out to all these people writing pasta dough recipes. Quit giving me egg measurements in per egg. I
Mm.
want weights. God damn it. And I want them now.
You heard the lady. Make it happen. No, it's true though, because eggs are very
Egg
different
size.
sizes. Yolks are
Yeah.
different sizes. From one
Right.
egg to the next, it is weird that eggs are just measured as an egg or as a
Egg.
yolk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is my beef.
Have you noticed though that when you have a recipe that calls for whites, it's usually measured in weight?
Yes.
So why are the whites measured in weight, but the yolks are not? Or a whole egg is not? Doesn't that seem odd?
Oh, universe, please tell us what the heck is going on.
Oh, universe.
Oh, universe. Somebody come down and help me.
Listen, forget all
So,
those other problems in the world. This is where you're needed
yeah.
right now.
Hello. So, these did come together. And then
Oh.
once it was a dough, then it was actually a little bit like I could knead it a little bit with my hands. It was a little bit softer and easier to move around. Again, I mean, I think pasta is deceivingly difficult. And maybe
Yeah.
that's just what I need to take home from this is that yes, it's simple ingredients. Yes, you just have to knead them together. But getting that final product that you want or that you're expecting takes the experience of doing this again and again.
It's a skill.
It's definitely a craft to
Yeah.
make these. And
Yeah.
I really appreciate and understand now why people go and, learn from a nonna in Italy how to make pasta and the effort that it takes to go into that. So these were
Yes.
pretty damn delicious though. I was really happy with them at the end. I mean,
You
all the
produced
tears in
like
there.
delicious little uniform egg noodles that yours were thinner than what I've made too. I think I didn't go to all the trouble of getting them super thin when I've made them.
I went down to 8 on
I
my
couldn't recall.
pasta
I don't.
bike. I was like, 8's good enough.
They seemed thinner than what I remember. Well, you remember the ones I made,
Yeah, exactly.
not just before Christmas. I think they were thicker. I didn't dry them overnight. I think it was the same day that I gave them to you.
Yeah. I
So,
debated with how to store them and stuff, and I was like, you know what? They're drying nicely here. I'm just going to put them up and let them dry.
yeah.
So,
Well, despite the hassle and the problems you had, that was some delicious pasta.
it was good
That was
pasta,
cooked
right?
up. Oh, so good.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you want to go and make this your labor of love, giver, just be aware that it is a labor of love.
Or be prepared to have lower standards, such as mine. Because clearly I was like, meh, it's together enough as long as it can go through the bike. And then I just use a pizza cutter and like randomly cut strips that were roughly the same size. But just for the record, that spinach fettuccine that you made for that episode way back was also
It was good.
amazing. It was so good.
Yeah.
So, I mean, whatever you're doing, it might be frustrating in the moment, but it's working.
Maybe I just need to channel some patience into my
Incantations?
more positive ones.
Yeah. Some positive affirmations while you're doing it.
Yeah, maybe that's what I need. Maybe that's what I need. I think I just, for whatever reason, it just seemed so much more difficult than I thought it would be. I don't
Well,
know.
it's probably more work than it should be.
It probably is.
I
Yeah.
think when you get good at it,
I think
it's
it was like
probably
3 hours for me to get all of this done. And in there was like the 30 minutes of resting time. So, okay. So, you tortured me with the noodles.
Oh, jeez.
Now I'm going to tell you
This
all
is
about
why you tortured me with the meat? No, you didn't. You didn't.
braised beef tongue. So, the wonderful part of this recipe is that, but at the end of the day, it was all happening in one pot. So, in this big stock pot, you're going to put in 1 thawed beef tongue, whole thing right in there.
Try not to look at it while you do it because it's kind of creepy.
I mean, it's just, I'm sorry,
Kinda.
I get sciencey. I'm like, this is fascinating. And I'm like,
Oh, whereas I just think, "Ew, don't
and
look
you're
at
just
it."
like, la, 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 la. Okay.
Yeah.
I wanted to like get my family. I was really tempted to be like, guys, check this out. But
Did
no.
you, is it clearly a tongue in the video and stuff that you made?
I didn't show all of it because I thought, you know what, this might not be everybody's bag. So
Okay.
I have a video of all the stuff going into the pot and boiling it, but I've omitted the part where I processed the skin and the texture on the tongue to remove it because I thought, maybe
well-
that's not what anyone wants to see.
Yeah. Just curious if listeners went and looked at our reels or anything on social media.
We want you to be interested in what we're doing, not like, oh my God, these women, ugh,
What are
and
they
run away.
cooking? Oh, there's listeners who I bet you would take on the project of a beef tongue. I think
bet.
there are.
There are. And anyway, I have some comments about it.
Okay.
Before you put it into the pot, I forgot you need to wash it down. So you rinse it really good in the sink, just in case there's anything on there you don't want on there. 1 large onion, 2 carrots, 2 celery stalks, 2 cloves of garlic. I used, they say fresh, but I used dried rosemary, thyme, bay leaves, peppercorns, salt, pepper, and 4, 8, 12, 14 cups of water covered everything. So I just had to do the math quickly there, but yeah, pop it on the stove, bring it up to a boil, let it boil for 3 hours.
Oh, wow.
Tongues are one of the strongest muscles in our body, so there is a whole bunch of really dense tissue. And it's not super fatty either, right? So
Right.
you've got to break down all those muscles for it to become softened. And that's
Mm-hmm.
what you're doing by boiling it for 3 hours. So once you've got it boiled, you take it out and you put it into a bowl with ice water so that you can cool it down just enough that you can handle it. And then you can peel the skin off of it. I
Okay.
won't go into detail. It's very
Thanks.
obvious where the skin is and what the skin is not.
Okay.
After I took the skin off and just popped it into a container and popped it in the fridge overnight, strained out the broth, kept all of that and put it into mason jars and again in the fridge. And some is in the freezer because it produced, I think it reduced by about half. I think I had about 8 cups of broth at the end. So that was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just toss it into your fridge and keep it until tomorrow. And then you can cook dinner with it. Yay! So when I pulled it out the next day and looked at it, it still had texture to it. And I was like, I know if Heather sees this texture, she's gonna get her, what the fuck
I'm
is
going to
this?
text you. WTF am I eating?
Exactly.
Wouldn't be the first one.
To you. It wouldn't be the first time. And my husband also is a little bit squeamish about these things. He's like, I kind of wish you didn't tell me because I feel like I can't eat this. And I was like, oh, for crying out loud. He's like, it's really good, but it's just in my head. I was like, oh.
Yeah. It is one of those things.
It is one of those things if you're
it's
not
kind of like,
accustomed to it.
yes. And it's a little like organ meat or something that's just, maybe if it's not something you
Yeah.
eat regularly, it's a little mind.
Mm-hmm.
You have to get over it in your head before you can enjoy it, I think.
I'm glad you brought up this topic of organ meat because we have cooked with organ meat before, and it has a very distinct smell and flavor, especially like liver and heart and
Yeah.
kidneys. I mean, they all have a lot of blood in it,
Yeah.
and so they taste very distinctive. This isn't like that.
No. It's not an organ. It's just the only reason I mentioned it is because it can have the same mental block for some people.
But it gets classified like organs and these spare parts that we often don't cook up are called offal, OFFAL.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
I wasn't sure if it was going to be like the organ meat that we cooked and had before. I was a little bit like, well, I don't really know. Like, what if I cook this up and it smells like those organ meats? Like, I do have a hard time enjoying those because it's not a taste that I'm accustomed to and it's rather
That like
strong and
metallic sort of taste.
yeah, like it's
Yeah.
it's
Not my favorite
very
either.
very intense, right? And so I was a little worried that I was going to end up with that, but no, like not at all with this cooking it and eating it. I thought, great, this is going to be good. So because when I took it out the next day, I noticed it still had the texture on it. I took a carrot peeler or a vegetable peeler and just ran it along the whole thing and just got all the texture off of it so that texture was gone because there was just still that little layer of it.
Yep.
But the next day when it was cool, it was much easier to handle and I could just easily zip off that last layer of skin. Now in your medium, like a fairly good large size pot, you are going to put in oil, butter, and 3 cups of mushrooms that you've cooked in or that you've cut into quarters and cook those down over medium high heat so they get like a good browning on them because you want that like delicious flavor from the mushrooms where it caramelizes on the bottom of the pan. So cook those for a few minutes. Then you add in half of a large diced onion. Again, sweat that down. It's going to release all of the moisture and then that moisture is going to evaporate and then it's going to start browning again. And then you're going to add in white wine and deglaze the bottom of your pot with that. I didn't have white wine, but I had sake. It was cooking sake. So I was like, well, that all is
Why not?
cooking alcohol. Let's go with it. Then you're going to take 2 cups of cubed braised beef tongue. So I just took the whole tongue. I diced it up into small pieces. I feel like I may have wanted it shredded into chunks rather than cut into cubes, just because it held its shape a little too
Oh,
much.
it sure did. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where I had questions really, because I was like, this isn't
This isn't,
falling apart the way I expected it to.
yeah.
That's why I was like, I wonder what kind of meat she used. I didn't think tongue, but I did kind of question it because it didn't behave the way I thought it was going to.
Exactly. So I would say like next time I would maybe, I don't know, cut the tongue maybe into chunks and then shred those chunks off into like more shredded pieces or something. I think there's a different way to do that so that
Maybe for tongue, but stroganoff is supposed to be chunks
it is supposed to be,
or
and
cubes.
I don't mean like totally shredded, but just like maybe not chopped edges, more torn, just so that it has
Okay. I thought it would fall
more,
apart more, is what I was expecting, a little bit
yeah,
more softness to the meat, which was why it stood out as
exactly.
different. So, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like there might be a different way to handle that. I would have to go back into the kitchen, experiment a little bit more, and come back
Yeah.
to you on that. So,
Okay.
next cow, next tongue,
Yeah.
I'm on it. So, you pop in your cubed up beef, you sprinkle with flour, mix it all around, sprinkle with your seasoning, which is thyme, salt, and pepper, stir it all around, and then add in your beef broth. Bring it up to a boil, it'll thicken up a little bit, and let it cook for about 10 minutes, just so that everything is heated through. So this is really quick the next day. You add in, just before you serve it, a quarter cup of sour cream, stir it to thicken it. Again, let it heat up again. And then right before you serve it, add in Dijon mustard. Spoon it up over freshly made egg noodles. And
Enjoy.
voila!
It is definitely enjoyable. I like a good stroganoff.
You know, I kind of think this is akin to a marsala, like chicken marsala. It's just like different meats with the same sort of
Yeah.
like mushroom cream base.
They're like cousins.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
While I was eating, I thought I would love this just with mushroom because the mushrooms are the best part of it, in my opinion. Not to, I
I
love beef too.
100% agree.
Oh, the mushrooms are, I don't know,
Yeah, those mushrooms are, I could make it with just mushrooms. I agree.
so good. That was the best part. But I love the whole dish. I mean, it was delicious. And in the spirit of using the whole animal, I think this is a fantastic use of the tongue. If you're willing to prepare it,
Yeah.
if you're okay handling it. I don't know how I feel about it personally because I'm a little squeamish with the whole skin and everything, but I'm happy to eat it. I thought it was delicious. The texture, what I think it's just knowing that it's a different cut and it's not gonna fall apart the way you expect sort of a meat in sauce, like a braised type
Yeah.
to fall apart. It's good. And was not my first taste of tongue. I've eaten tongue before, so it's not like I was, what the, what the
It
heck
really
is this?
has a very different texture, but similar flavors to any other
The
beef
flavor
cut.
is the same. Yeah, it's the texture that's a bit different. And it's not a bad texture. It's just a different,
No,
very tender.
very tender. It just holds its shape.
Yeah. Well, that was fun.
I'm sorry that I lied.
Surprises are always fun.
I thought it was great.
That was
I was
fun.
happy.
It's delicious.
And if you're not as adventurous, this works with any sort of pot roast for sure. And if you want to make a vegetarian, just cook it with the mushrooms. Ding dong.
Delicious. Seriously.
Yeah, I loved the mushrooms in there. That was so good.
Well, thanks. That was fun.
And now for the fine print. For links to recipes and many other random things we talked about in this episode, check out the show notes or our website, www.threekitchenspodcast.com. Join us over on Instagram, Facebook, Threads, YouTube, and TikTok to see what we're cooking up next. And if you love the show, tell a friend. Word of mouth is the #1 way people learn about new podcasts. Thank you so much for listening. And I used my tongue. Yay!
Yay! And it was good.